today our powerful conversation is with a powerful woman. She is a money sage and a spiritual mentor, and she helps you become the kind of woman who can hold the wealth and walk with purpose. In English, in Spanish, es una sabia del dinero, mentora espiritual, te ayuda a convertirte en la mujer que puede sostener la riqueza y caminar con propósito. Es también una colega, también una coach de Napoleón Hill Institute. Así que la vamos a invitar, ya está por aquí, la veo, la vamos a invitar. A ver, vamos aquí a buscar Yulin. You have just to accept the invitation. So, guys, we are gonna have. Okay, hello, my dear.
Hello, Maritsela.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I can hear you very, very well. So,
Okay.
so
Is my
thank you for being with us. I was introducing you, so I said the first introduction into Spanish and then also into English, but I would like you to listen also in Spanish, so that's why I'm gonna introduce yourself again. Chicos y chicas, ella es aquí una invitada especial en Powerful Conversation. Como ustedes saben, nuestra conversación de hoy va a ser sobre todo en inglés, pero después voy a dejar aquí las notas en español. Entonces les decía que ella es Yulin, ella es una sabia del dinero, así que tienen mucho que aprender de ella. Es una mentora espiritual y te ayuda a convertirte en la mujer que puede sostener la riqueza y caminar. So, I just did your introduction. I'm gonna say it again into English also. So she's a money sage and a spiritual mentor, and she helps you become the kind of woman who can hold wealth and walk with purpose. So welcome here. I'm so happy that you are here in our powerful conversations with powerful women, powerful leaders all around the world, and I'm here in Italy. Where are you from and where do you live now?
Yeah, thank you so much again for the invitation. I love powerful conversations. So I live in San Francisco. I've spent most of my life here in Northern California. I was originally born in China, but I spent most of my life here in California. Yeah.
Wonderful. So what time is there in California right now?
It's 11 a.m.
Wow, magnificent. So here in Italy it's 8. So I really love this kind of conversations because you are in the other part of the world and I'm here and we can connect. It is the magic of internet. So well,
That's right. That's right. This is where we really, want to thank technology, right?
Yeah, of course.
Us to be able to do this.
Yeah. So as I told of my guest here, we have 3 lives because it is a kind of series in order to get to know you better. And also my community love these topics. They love here to talk about money, to talk about mindset, to talk about relationships, and also leadership. So we know very well the topic since you are also a colleague from Napoleon Hill Institute. So that's why we can share this information here. So let's go to a little bit to get to know about your background. You told us that you are from China, and what is a Chinese woman doing in United States?
Yeah. So certainly that wasn't my choice. I came here at 13. So I basically followed my parents who decided to immigrate here. So we were actually the first wave of immigrants coming out of China back in 1981. So that was a long time ago. And I will say that China back then, it was not what it is today. And what that means is that the life that we lived was very different from what it is today. We had nothing. Aside from having a roof over our head, we had enough to eat. I got to go to school, but really no access. It was pretty much the bare minimum of what we need to live. I actually did not grow up with any toy or a doll. I've never had a doll in my whole life. We played with rocks and rubber band in the alleys, hide and seek, you know. So, and then coming to the States, the first 10 years when my parents started with nothing, I know what's it like to live with no money. So I would say the first 20 years of my life, we lived a very minimal life. Again, I didn't struggle. I didn't feel like a struggle. But it was always tight. We were always having to watch our money. And it was always about how can I stretch the dollar a little bit more, right? And saving every penny, every cent. So I know what's it like. But I will say now, as an adult looking back at my childhood, I would say the biggest gift that my mom and my parents gave me was this idea that I can have anything I want. I can do anything I want, and I can be anything I want. And the fact that if we don't have the money today, that's okay. It's just a circumstance. And so now as a money coach, I tell people that I make a distinction between being broke and feeling poor. So being broke is a circumstance that we may all run into in our life. You know, circumstances, they come and go with the ebbs of life. But feeling poor is an identity. Yeah. So if we tell ourselves that, oh, I'm poor, we are poor, we can't do this because we are poor, then we taking on this identity that eventually will lead us to a different set of actions that we would take on a day-to-day basis in our lives. But if I think, oh, yeah, I'm broke right now, I don't have the money, but that's okay. I can have some later. I can save up for it. And that's also how my parents taught us. It wasn't like, you know, the words that I'm saying now between the distinction between broke and poor, it's not, it didn't come from them, right? It's now me summarizing from my life experiences. But back then with them, it was just, oh, we don't have money, but you know, so-and-so had this, that looks really nice. Well, maybe one day we can save up for it. Yeah. So it's the attitude. You see, it's the attitude as opposed to, oh yeah, that's rich people. You know, they get to have that. Well, but you know, we're not rich. We can't have that, right? So it's very subtle in how we behave as parents, but it has a huge impact. Now I realize, and I have been the lucky one who's had the, you know, the benefit of their own positive mindset where, okay, yeah, it's great, good for them. I would really like to have that, and let's figure out how to save up for it. So it was always this attitude. And I think that really, really helped me build and cultivate the confidence in myself. And now when I hear my clients talk, sometimes I would imagine what I would turn out to be if I had parents who kept telling me, no, we can't afford it. No, we can't afford it. That's for rich people. We can't do that. You know, it's those negative. Yeah. On the day-to-day, we don't even paying attention that this is what we're saying. But words have power. And especially when they land on kids. And so often people, and especially women, taking on identities that's really not theirs, but they've been carrying it all their life. Either, well, we're poor, I'm not rich, I don't deserve this, or, well, money, that's a man's thing, that's a man's job. I just need to take care of my family. I need to be a good wife. I need to be a good mother. You know, all of those conditioning that we take on as kids, and then they formed how we end up living our lives. And so now that I am an adult and really, really looking back, and that's why part of the reason why I do what I do now as a money coach is I really want to give back all the gift that I have received as a child through teaching other people how to build their own confidence. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Wonderful how you explain it, that, you know, when you were a kid, you don't have money, but still your family have this richness in mind. So that's why you started to work, to have a program, and your program was very good. That's why you decided also to work on yourself later. But I really love what you say. There is a difference between being broke and being poor,
or
because some
feeling for.
yeah, because sometimes, we just follow our five senses and we see that we don't have the money, and then we say, oh, how I'm going to do this or that. No, is what happened, for example, with some clients. Sometimes they have this idea, I don't have the money now. And then I asked, but do you want the course? Do you want this transformation? So if you want, you are going to have the money. But the first is the decision that you have to take, yeah, that you really want something. And tell me about, you said, no, you have a beautiful programming from your family. And as you said, they arrived there in the United States and they have nothing. And how is how is the way that you started to work with them in order to have your own money? Because I suppose that you work also like me since you were a kid in order to have your own money. Because
Yeah.
I have almost the same history, you know.
Yeah. So at the very beginning, I was 13, so I was still going to school in high school. And my I have brother and sister who are much older than me, and so they were working. And what we had to do was pull the money together, to run the household. Everyone worked, and basically my brother, my sister, they all had to give their money to my parents, and then they get some money back as their allowance, because that's what it took to be able to feed a family of five. And I also started working in high school on a weekend in a restaurant where my sister used to work. And then so she brought me in and I would work on the weekends. And all the money that I made, I gave it to my mom. And I remember and then she would give me $20 as my allowance for the month.
Wow.
And yeah. So that's how it started.
Yeah,
And
wow.
then for my dad, who when he was in China, he come from a very skilled background. He's a he's an electronics guy, and so he used to. This is back in the 70s. He was one who built one of the first TVs in Shanghai, and so he knows all the electronics. And so he wanted to open up a TV repair shop here in San Francisco, and but he didn't speak English, and so basically I ran the shop. I was the store manager. He was the one who fixed, who did all the repair, but
Yeah.
I was the one who ran the shop. And this was since my ninth grade. So my entire 4 years of high school, I would get off of school at 2:30. And a lot of times my friends would hang out at the school or go to bowling alleys or do something fun just to hang out. But every day I had to rush back. I had to get back to the shop so I can run it. So I dealt with customers. I order all the parts. We had a retail space that had a little like a window space in the front, and like a bay window space. And I was like, there's all this space. What can I do with it? And then I would go to Chinatown and buy like those little gifts, like holiday gifts or toys at a wholesale price. I would buy them and then I put them in the storefront and then I would sell them, for holidays. And even just of a toy, like make $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever, just finding ways to make more money, to bring in more revenue. I also, and then I found out, I was like, oh, maybe I can also make keys. So I decided to, and it was fun. Like me at 15, right? Or 14, 15, I was making all these business decisions.
Wow.
But my parents also let me because they didn't know what to do anyway, and they didn't speak English. So my dad was just, repairing the TVs, and that's all he did. And my mom had her own job back then. So I was running the business. And so I thought, okay, I decided to buy a key making machine And I remember it was $99, and that was a lot of money to us. And but I thought, okay, but it's fine. It's an investment. And I found out I can buy these blank keys for 10 cents. But when people come to get their key, house key made, I charge $1. So the profit there is huge, right? And so that's how I learned. It's almost like, to me, I've always had this attitude or just way of live my life. It's just through playing. And so at the time, for me, that was kind of like playing. It's like, okay, how else can I make some money, right? Because the repair work, it's just my dad's repair work. But, and then I had all these other ideas to make some extra money. And again, back then, every dollar, means a lot to us.
Yeah. Wow. So you're really a business girl. Now you are a business woman, but then you were a business girl since you have all of these, ideas, this creativity.
Yeah, and so it was definitely a training, right? But it was not a training out of my own desire. It was out of necessity.
Yeah.
And there were definitely times where I was kind of complaining to my dad. I remember this. I was complaining to my dad. It's like, oh, my friends get to go to like movies or whatever. And then now I have to come back. I have to do this, right? As a teenager. I remember, and I remember my dad said to me, he said, I know it's a lot to ask of you right now, but he said, just know that one day you're going to look back and you're going to really appreciate all the experiences you've gained from this. I'm like, oh, and of course at the time I would roll my eyes up, well, yeah, whatever, whatever, right? As a teenager, but now, of course, and I think he's absolutely right. As at the same time, I felt like I've kind of lost some of my childhood, just being kids, because I had to really step up, and because it's not all rosy, and there were challenges that I had to deal with because I was the only one. There was no one else, because I was the only one who can speak enough English to deal with it. So it wasn't all rosy and fun, but at the same time, now looking back, definitely I've learned so much, not only experience, but also I think it's the muscle that we need to build, both around our self-confidence and our skill sets. And a lot of times our confidence also comes from the skills that we build up over time.
Yeah, and that's it's so good what you said. I had to do it because of the necessity. So when you really have the necessity, you don't have to give you some instructions. Okay, I'm gonna do tomorrow, or maybe
You don't get to choose. Yeah.
you don't self-sabotage because you really need the money, so you have to do whatever it takes in order to have the money. So, and also one important thing that you say is, I felt responsibility because I was the only one who spoke English at that time. So that's why. So you had to really grew up early.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really early for this. And
Yeah.
then what happened when you have to go to the university? Because
Yeah. So by then, my dad decided to close the shop, and my mom decided to she started with a laundromat, and then she expanded into a dry cleaning business. So my parents ended up working together in their dry cleaning business for over 20 years. And I think between the two of them, my mom, started to learn some English, so she was able to handle her business, enough speak enough to handle her business. And then I went away to college. So yeah.
wow, wonderful. I really love the story, because when we see somebody who knows about money, is because sometimes, when we were kids, we have this kind of necessity. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
we have a plan, a soul plan. So
Mm-hmm.
each one of us have a soul plan. And for
Mm-hmm.
sure, that was yours. You didn't have the money, so now you work as a money coach, and you help a lot of women all around the world, in order to change their mindset, and then in order to have money, because everything starts with our identity, with our mindset. So what about then, with when you were in the university, you finished everything from the university, and then what happened? What?
Yeah. Yeah. So at 18, I was like most teenager. I did not know what I want to do with my life. I didn't know. And also, I didn't have parents to help me get through like the college application process, right? Because they didn't even speak English. They didn't know what was going on. So I was literally like just on my own trying to figure it out. And, I was the top student in my math class, and I took a computer programming. It was a basic programming language, and I thought, oh, that's kind of fun. So it was not strategic at all. It was just, that's kind of fun. I could do this. I'll study computer science. But it turned out to be, I was at the right place at the right time doing the right thing, right? Because I live in the Silicon Valley, and that was the beginning. By the time I finished college, that was the beginning of the software boom. And so when I graduated from college, I had 5 different job offers. And so that was when I started to have real money, because I was making a good, decent income as a software engineer. But then something else I did also was very instrumental in kind of charting my own life path. I always was interested in real estate investing. I don't know if it was just me or if it was just kind of the conditioning that we've had, coming from the Asian culture that, it's like you make money, but eventually like the end goal is to buy a home, right? And own your own home. That was kind of, it's almost like a given, like you just hear it. My parents didn't even have to specifically tell me, you just kind of know that that's what I need to work towards. At least that was the conditioning. And so right away after I started working, I also started studying for real estate, and I got my real estate license. And then I started working on the weekend as a realtor, selling homes and showing buyers homes. And then during the week, after I finished my high-tech job, I would go into the real estate office and I would do cold calls. And so this is back in 1991, right? When cold calling was still okay. We would call between 6 and 7 because that's when people will be home, making dinner. And also now looking back, 30 years later, it's a full cycle because the interest rate at the time was in their 7th, and they were dropping to the 6th. And so it was a perfect refi opportunity. So I would cold call people to say, hey, I just want to let you know, interest rates have dropped on the mortgage. I see that you're paying currently 7%. Would you like to refinance your mortgage? And so that's how I started learning how the mortgage work, how to do mortgages. So I was both a mortgage, advisor and also a realtor on the weekends. And this is in addition to my full-time job. And so I did that for about a year. And then I was able to buy my first home 2 years after I graduated from college.
Wow.
So because I learned how things worked. But of course, back then it was a lot cheaper than what it is today. I remember my first house was $180,000, but which is nothing today. But at the same time, it was still a lot of money back then. And I learned about like first time home buyer program, and I gathered enough. So it's between my jobs, my savings from the job, and then the company I was with went public. So I got some extra money from the stocks. And then also the money from selling real estate. So so things were just kind of all shaping. And I think this is also just another proof that, what you learn through Napoleon Hill is that when you have a clear goal, and at the time my goal was eventually I want to own a home, right? That was the end goal. And when you set that in motion and you start taking actions, And the actions was just, it wasn't so much like, oh, I need to do this next. It was just like, oh, okay, well, if I want to buy a house, I need to learn about house. So I'm going to just go be a realtor. So I did it. I feel like I really did it in a flow state as opposed to really trying to make it, force it happen. I didn't even plan that I was able to be able to buy my first home 2 years after I graduated from college. But it just happened. And I think now looking back, having studied the material, it happened because everything was working for me based on the actions that I was taking. And so one of the things now I say, having, now being a certified coach with Napoleon Hill Institute and learning the materials and learning the principles, I realized I did have a lot of unconscious competency. Like I was doing the right thing, even though nobody told me and I didn't really study the material then. And that's one thing I want to share with people too, is that it's not that I did everything right in my life. I've also made a lot of mistakes along the way, but so often we don't recognize our ability, our innate ability, or the skills that we acquired. I really didn't realize I've done so many things right until I started studying this material. I look back and look, oh, I actually did this pretty well, right? And so I'm sure I'm not the only one. And I'm sharing this because I want everyone else, I want to inspire everyone else to go discover their own unconscious competency. Because once you recognize and acknowledge that, you can build on that, and that will take you a lot farther than when we try to force things to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you were applying. It's the same that I realized when I started to, when I started to study the material. I said, oh my goodness, I use this principle, and then the other one, the other one, the other one. So I really used all the principles, and I didn't know that I was using them. So now we have this map in order to help others to use these principles, because all of them really work. All of them. When you told me about your story, what I saw there, for example, was this burning desire in order to have these homes. You really have the burning desire, and that's why you started to take action. Then we have, also decision in order to take action, and then you took action, and then you had the money, at the end. And this is really important, because sometimes people says, for example, for you it's so easy because you speak English, you speak Spanish, you speak Italian. For you it's so easy because you did this, and this. Yeah, I know this right now, but you didn't see what was in the past. The same that you are saying right now. Now we see this woman, this leader that works all around the world, but now we are listening to your story, and people can realize that they can also use the principles, and they can also change their lives. So that's why
absolutely.
It's very, very, very important this. And then what happened after you got these homes, after you have all this new business, and you were just a younger? I think you were.
I was 20. I was 24 when I bought my first house.
Yeah. Wow. And then what?
Well, so that was the catalyst for me to start my real estate investment journey, which I have been doing for the last 30 years. I stayed in high tech for 12 years. So in that 12 years, in addition to buying this home, I bought other properties. I also got my MBA. I went to MBA night school and got my MBA. I also, started having kids, got married and having kids. So a lot of things, how it is from when you're starting your young life. But 12 years later, I was thinking about having a second child. But then I also wanted to have more freedom in terms of my own time. When I was in high tech, I used to travel a lot. I used to travel to Europe. I traveled to Asia. When I worked at Adobe, I was the product manager for all of their applications in the Chinese and Korean versions. So I used to travel to Asia, do product launches for them, and a lot. And so back then, before we had kids, I would be gone for 3 weeks at a time.
Wow.
Traveling around Asia. And then later on, I worked from, Adobe, went to Microsoft. I also traveled to Europe quite a bit. But something, I guess, part of the aging when you hit in your 30s, I was thinking about having a second child. I really want to be able to spend more time with, my kids when they were very young. And so I said, I still have this real estate license thing, and I wasn't doing the sales as much. It was mostly like my own investments. That maybe I should do real estate full time so I have better control of my time and just leave high tech. So that's what I did. So in 2002, I left high tech and went into real estate full time. So I became a mortgage advisor. And because I did both before then, sales and in financing. But I decided if I were to do this as a full-time thing, I should just focus on one. And also because the whole reason was I want more flexibility in my own time. And financing is that's just my, with numbers and stuff, that to me, that's more of what interests me. So I decided to become a mortgage advisor full time, and I stopped the sales side of being a realtor. So I did that for almost 10 years. During that time, I also joined a company that was both a mortgage banker and also a wealth management company. So through them, I got trained to become a financial advisor. I did all my security, got all my security licenses, and became a financial advisor. Helping people manage their assets. So I do bring skill sets and background from both the real estate perspective and then also the equity market, with the stocks and stuff. So, and those are the two main areas when we talk for most people, when we talk about wealth building, it's the real estate or the stock market. And so I'm one of the probably few people who have both sides of the experience, because usually you either find, and philosophically, most people, it's either, are you a real estate person or are you a stock person, But I just happen to have, experience and background in both sides that I have been able to do not only for ourselves, our family, but also help other people. And then in 2011, with my husband's job, we ended up moving to Paris. So we, lived in Paris for 4 years. And that was a very life-changing. What's that?
Do you speak also French?
Deepa? Just a little bit. Yeah. So that was a life-changing experience for me, because I have never stopped working before that. Even through having kids, I've always worked. But going to Paris for his job and, being a advisor, a financial advisor, a mortgage advisor, it's not really a translatable job to Paris, because I would need different licenses and all that stuff. So I became a housewife for the first time in my life. And
Wow.
that was so that was very life-changing for me, just because, again, it goes back to your self-image.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Totally.
Everything we do, it's a reflection of our self-image. It's how we see ourselves. So I've always seen myself as someone who's able to, create my own life, do my own thing.
Yeah, a businesswoman. Then you have to stay there in the house.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, so for the first 2 years, we were, just busy, because we didn't speak French when we moved there. So it took a lot of time to settle in. But after 2 years, I was like, okay, well, now we're really settled and I'm feeling very comfortable here, but also starting to feel very antsy. It's like, okay, what's next for me?
Yeah.
And this is, I went through that transition myself back then. And this is where, the core centerpiece of what I do now as a money coach for people is that it's helping people going through that major transition in their life, where you either have spent all of your life, catering to your kids, taking care of your family, taking care of your parents, or working in your career.
Yeah.
But now to a new phase to say, you know what? What about me? What do I really want, right? And so I went through that myself there while I was living there. And so I've spent quite a few months just doing soul searching, trying to think about what do I want to do when I grow up, And that was a question I asked myself. Well, I don't know what do I want to do when
But
I grow up, right? Grow up to the next level, right? And so what I realized is that I've always cared a lot about women related issues. One of the dream that I had in my early days was I want to have a foundation of some sort for battered women. I don't know
wow.
where it's from. It's not like I've gone through that myself. I've actually been so blessed that I grew up in a very loving family and I married well. My husband is very loving as well. But so it's not from my own experience, but there's a calling that I've always wanted to kind of help with the injustice. And it's specifically around women issue. And I say this and not meaning like I'm not a man hater, but
Yeah,
it's really thinking about um, how women we being conditioned so differently and how we show up in the world, especially around money, so differently from guys, from men, right? And for me, it's all about just leveling the playing field. And to me, it shouldn't be about are you a man or a woman? It should just be we're all human beings. And as human beings, as a individual with self-respect, then I need to have the ability to support myself, to find a way to support myself, to be able to make money and create wealth for myself. And so that's really the essence of, my own philosophy and also the source of how I ended up creating the business that I've created, and helping women to become savvier, with money.
and
And
here is also very important what you said because you really felt pain there, and from your pain, then you went to your purpose. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
very important.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that you said, okay, now I'm gonna do something for women. I'm gonna help them in order to work about money, about everything. It really was your pain. So here we have some tips
Yeah,
for.
I've never saw it that way, but now that you said it, I think it was really me being able to sense other people's pain.
Yeah, yeah, because we are one. We
We
are
are
the.
all connected. Yeah, we're all connected. And so, like I said, I actually have been very, very blessed in my entire life. And so it wasn't from my own experience, but somehow I could feel the pain of others, that they had to go through in their lives. And so that's when I decided to be eventually, after a month of soul searching, that I decided to become a money coach and specifically for women. And so that was 2014. So I started that. And so it's been 11 years since I've been doing this.
Wow. And what happened then? What? So you search, you start on the internet, you saw a course, and then you decided to follow the course, and then what happened?
Oh, so how I started my coaching business was, it was an idea. I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah, yeah. So, but here's the thing. So I was my background was I was a financial advisor. I was even just as a mortgage advisor, I was very used to giving people advice. When people came to me to get a mortgage application, I see all of their finances. And when I saw the finances, sometimes I will have questions in my mind, like, And I would ask my clients, like, have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? And they're like, no, I've never thought about that. And so it was just always in how I was working that I was always giving advice. So I know how to give advice. I know how to give financial advice, but I didn't know what it would look like as a coach, like to have a coaching business. So the first thing I did was I was looking for coaching certification schools and all of that, but most of them, and again, this is I started my business in 14, so I started thinking about this in 2013. back then, I was looking, most of the coaching trainings and certifications, they were all in the US. There wasn't really anything in Europe back then. Just even coaching, when I tell people I'm now a coach, and they're like, what's a coach? Like, what do you do? You know? And so the most of the certification didn't work for me because it would require me, like there were some online materials, but then it would also require me to come to US for in-person classes. And with the kids in school, I just couldn't get away during the time that they were holding these. But I was very fortunate to find this one lady she's in UK, and she has a very similar background that she also used to be a financial planner, financial advisor. And then she just got tired of, selling products, and she decided to be a financial coach. So she's definitely one of the pioneers in this area. And then she had done it for a while. And then now she's doing training of other people to how to become financial coach. So I found her, and she was in UK. And again, this is kind of talking about applying. What's
You were,
that?
she was in UK, but you were in France.
Yeah, yeah. So, but again, this is another time where I applied some of these principles without even knowing that's what I was doing. So when I looked on her website, she also says she does these coaching training classes, but she only does it like once a year and at a certain time. And the next one, she doesn't have dates yet, right? It's up and she's coming, but she doesn't have the dates yet. And so I was like, I'm going to reach out to her. So I emailed her and I say, hey, I'm really interested in getting your week-long training. Can you just do a private week-long training with me? And then she said yes.
Wonderful.
So instead of waiting for her to have her, because I have no idea when she's going to have the next one. So then I'm like, yeah, I'll pay you. I'll come to UK. She lives in Brighton, and so I went to Brighton for a whole week, and it was one-on-one, very focused private coaching with me, and that was the best thing that really helped me to kick it off, because again, I know what I'm doing when it comes to giving financial advice about money. I just don't know how to run a coaching business.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I was able to coach with her for a 1 week at her location, one-on-one, not only she showed me the process of how to coach somebody, but I got to see how she runs her business. And that was very valuable, because a lot of times I hear, that people go to ICF or any of a lot of those, big name, they're focused on the coaching. And maybe now, I don't know, I've never done coaching certification with ICF, but they mostly focus on the coaching piece of it, but then they don't tell you how to run a business.
Yeah.
And so then you still would have to figure out how to run a business. And so it was exactly what I needed it. But again, it's about taking action. And I just gave a webinar, before coming on this call, talking about faith and talking about applied faith, right? So applied faith is faith in action. Yeah. And so I had the faith in myself to say, you know what, this is what I want to do. I'm just going to do it. Like just believing in myself that I can do this. And then I couple it with taking action. And I couldn't find anybody around me in Paris that had coaching training back then. So I thought, okay, well, UK was as close as it gets. And because it was private, we were able to work out a week where I was able to break away. And so again, it's just taking initiatives and taking proactive actions and just making things happen. So yeah.
Yeah, because we are creators of our reality. Yeah, you didn't see the course, but you decided to apply, to call her, to write to her in order to have the course. So it's really, you took the decision. I'm gonna do this, and you did it.
Yeah. No, I just find ways to do it. And like you said earlier, so many people, when they look at, what we offer now, courses or whatever, or maybe even other things, deep down inside, they say, I want it, but then they tell them, well, I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the same pattern, right? That a lot of people that, as humans that we follow. But if we can break out of that pattern and, like back then, I didn't just sit around and say, well, I can't find any, well, this lady in UK, I have to wait for her dates, or, I can't go to the US because it's too far away. I can't break away, in those dates, to just sit and wait.
Yeah.
Right. So I took the initiative and I say, well, how can I make it happen? So yeah, absolutely. It's about you making that decision. This is what I want to do and I want to move forward. And then once you make that decision, and I share this at a retreat that I did, that I held in April, when I said to one of the participants, I said, so many people get stuck on the how.
Yeah.
And I said, some people will say how. The how is none of your business. But, what I like to say is the how is the path. Once you decide that you are going to get on this path is going to open up and show up for you. You just have to make that decision. And so yeah, so that's what happened. So I got trained by her and I officially started my coaching business at the beginning of 2014. And then I was an expat, so I didn't know that many people. I only, my community circle are parents from my kids' school, and that was about it. I really didn't know that many people. So another thing that I did was I went on Meetup, and what I found out is, Meetup, they're all over the world. In some cities, they're more vibrant than others. In Paris, Meetup is very vibrant. That's how people meet each other. It's on
Wow.
Meetup. And so I started I just thought, oh, I'm going to check out Meetup, again, just exploring, right? And so I found out that, there's all these groups that I started to attend myself to just expand my circle, my network. But also I started posting workshops on Meetup. And the workshop that I did was hosting the cash flow game. Until this day, this is the best tool that I use to teach people about how to become savvy. It's not just smart, but it's how to become savvy and think like an investor. And it's just the best tool because we play the cash flow game. It's a board game, and so I would host it in my apartment, and I
Wow.
would invite people come over, and we would play. But so people would play. I would go around and watch people how they play, and then I give them coaching on the spot. So, the game, I don't know if you've played the game. It's kind of the way I described it. It's like a Monopoly on
Yeah.
steroids, right?
Yeah.
So instead of buying railroads and stuff in Monopoly, it's more like real life where you're pulling a card and it says, oh, here's company X, Y, and Z, and their stock price today is at 20, but their trading range is between 5 to 30. Would you like to buy some? Now, most people who don't have any financial background, when they look at this, they're like, I don't know. Should I buy it? Should I not buy it? And this is exactly where I do coaching. I teach people how you make these decisions. Well, first of all, you have to understand the language. You have to understand the lingo. Okay, so trading range between 5, that means, the history of the stock is the low end is at 5, the high end has been at 30. Today's price is at 20. Would you like to buy some? And so if you use those data, you say, well, okay, 20 is not the best, but there's still some room to grow. Maybe I can buy some. So then, okay, buy some. How much to buy? Well, how much money do you have in front of you right now? Think of it as in a percentage. How much money can I allocate for investment purposes as opposed to other purposes? So there's a lot of detailed nuances in how you make each of these financial decisions on a daily basis that most people just don't pay attention to. They just make a quick decision. And oftentimes those quick decisions are just based on your habits.
Yeah.
And oftentimes those habits are based on fear. So just realize that a lot of decisions you've been making in your life are based on fear. And so if it's based on fear, as you would know, it's probably not the best decision you can make. Right. And so there's so much teaching moments. And so again, I led a retreat in October in Italy,
Yeah.
and I played the game with the participants who came, and they loved it so much that they are now asking a separate retreat just for their daughters.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they say, I want my daughters to learn this because they learn so much. And then now, one of them was telling me, well, I was just thinking about, my parents' mortgage, and I used to think this way, but now that we had this conversation, we've done this exercise, now I just catch myself, no, I'm going to make a different decision now. I'm going to think differently. I'm going to decide differently. And again, it's about training you to start having. It's not just about making money. Making more money is a great skill to have to start.
Yeah.
But you also have to have the mindset of an investor. Because if you don't have that, then it's just about making money. So what
And then,
happened? What's that?
and then also you are gonna lose the money if you don't have, the
Yeah.
ability.
So if you don't sharpen or work on the skills on how to become a good steward of the money that comes in, then the money just goes out the other door. And that's how most people in America live, right? Is they end up becoming what I call the revolving door for money. Money comes in one way and it goes out the other way. And it
Yeah.
comes in one way and go out the other way. You make less, you spend less. You make more, you spend more. It's the same pattern. And Napoleon Hill, in one of his book, he call that the hypnotic rhythm.
Yeah, it
Like
is.
most people live their life in these hypnotic rhythm of a certain pattern of making money and a certain pattern of spending money. So that's part of the pattern we want to break out of, and to say, okay, when the money comes in,
What
what
I'm
do I
going
do with it? What do I do with it? How do I become strategic with the money that comes in? And I also say that, if you believe in the universe is there to support us and working with us, then I also believe that universe will only give you the amount of money you can handle,
Yeah, right. Right.
because it's intelligent. It's not going to give you more than what you can handle. And this is exactly why most people who win the lottery lose it all within 3 to 5 years. I've heard like 70, 80% range, right? Why is that? They certainly attract a lot of money to them.
Yeah.
But why is it that so many people, they can't hold on to the wealth? Well, it's because they've never paid attention. They've never trained themselves, both mentally, psychologically, emotionally, but also practically on the skill set. They all need to kind of work together in tandem. And so yeah, so I say, it takes different skill sets for making money versus for keeping money.
Yeah. Yeah,
And you need
different.
to work on both.
Yeah, and I remember one of your videos that I saw, I think it was a year ago, that you were talking about the relationship that we have with money. I really love that video. It was really wonderful because everything is a relation. We have a relationship with us, and also we have a relationship with money. And
Mhm.
could you describe? I really love what the video says, but I would like you to say to the guys here, because I really love what you say. It is really a
Okay.
relation.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure which one, because I talk a lot about, I have different videos on the development relationship, but I'll share this. For all the ladies out there, I would like to invite you to imagine, if money was your child, how would you take care of it? How would you nurture it? Because so often, women would say, I'm really bad with money.
Yeah.
And I never hear that from a man. And I know for men, it's the same as for women, that some are good with money, others are not so good with money. But the ones that are not so good with money, they don't say it. They don't claim that, even though they may be behaving badly with money. But
Yeah.
for women, we claim that as a title, whether that's true or not, right? And so that is the first thing.
Love that.
Sorry, my dog was scratching. So that was the first thing that I would say that, in terms of if you're thinking about your relationship with your money and how you show up is if you think of money as your child, how would you nurture it? And you have that in you because as women, we all have that mothering instinct. Every single one of us who are mothers, we never received training on how to become a mother. We just became mother one day and we learn on the job, but somehow there's this also the instinct knowing what's best for our kids. And I want to invite women, all women out there, to say, how can I tap into that feminine instinct and apply that towards money? So that's number one. And number two, for a lot of people, they actually don't know what their relationship with money is. Then I have another, exercise for you to do, and that can be for both men and women, is imagine you going on a coffee date with money.
Yeah, that one. I really love that. That one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would really help you discover what your true relationship is. But in order to do this, it takes a little bit of time. And so I'm just going to kind of show you, but I invite everyone who's listening, watching now or later, to really take the time to do this for yourself. And so the invitation is imagine having a coffee date with money. What does money look like to you? Is it a man? Is it a woman? Or it is a thing? It could be anything, right? And don't overthink it. The first thing that comes to your mind is the right answer for you. There's no right or wrong answer, but the first thing that comes to you is a true answer for yourself. And so for some people, some women may say, oh, it looks like a man in a suit. Or for other people say, it could be a woman wearing purple, whatever, right? It's whatever that comes to your mind. And then sometimes it's a thing. They can't relate to a person. One time I did a workshop and this lady said, money is like a mountain to me and I hate climbing.
Wow.
And when she said it, and I
Gosh.
could see like this aha moment that was like, oh my God, that's why I don't relate to money well. That's why I haven't been having a good relationship with money, is because money feels like a mountain and I hate climbing.
Yeah.
Right.
Quite what I-
So, I love this exercise because everyone comes with a different story, because it's your own visual. And there's so much that can be explored in the story that come up for you. So part of the story is, okay, now that you've kind of imagined, it could be a thing, it could be a person, you're both at a coffee shop. What does that conversation look like? What do you say to money? And what does money say back to you?
Yeah,
And I
wonderful.
encourage all of you who are listening again to do this, conversation, do it at least 5 to 10 rounds.
Yeah.
Because people stop at 1 or 2. So I say, so what does money say to you? They're like, and then they think of something. And I say, so, okay, what do you say back? And they say something. And then I say, what else? And then they start drawing a blank. But I invite you to do at least 5 rounds, if not 10 rounds, because each round, it actually help you discover another layer of what may be there between your relationship, between you and your money. So
Wow.
absolutely, yes.
Well, it's wonderful. Yeah, when I saw your video, I said, "Oh my goodness, I really love this exercise because it is really powerful because we don't realize that we are talking every single moment with money."
Yeah,
And you said it's very important the words you said, the relationship. How is the money talking to us? What
yeah,
are we saying every single day? So
yeah,
thank you for sharing all your
yeah.
knowledge. with us. I really love the exercise, so I'm sure the guys are gonna do this exercise. It's been really a wonderful, powerful conversation, and we are gonna discover more about you and how you applied all the principles in your life. So thank you for sharing with us your childhood, your every single period of your life, because I see what I think is that in every single story we have a lesson that other people can see, that maybe they are going through this same situation, and it's not so difficult as they think. We can change our lives in whatever moment we want to change, but it is important to take the decision.
Yeah. And I think, just to kind of wrap up about, because the title of our talk today is is money mastering you, or are you mastering money? And I think, the coffee date with money is a perfect way to end our conversation today, but to continue next time, because in order to answer that question of, are you mastering money, or is money mastering you? The answer of that question is a reflection of your relationship to money,
Yeah.
right? And so I think there's so much we can talk in that, because I find in this world we have most people on two sides of the spectrum. One side, they are so focused on pursuing making more money, more money, more money. And then the other side, they are very much about wanting to make an impact in the world, about their own personal spiritual growth. They almost have a disdain for money. They think they don't need money, or they think that, well, God is going to provide for me, universe is going to provide for me. None of those are wrong, but also when God is providing for you, or when the universe is providing for you, it's with the assumption that you are also taking action. It's a co-creation process. And so either side, what end up happening is people are pursuing money, 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 and have money being the end goal. They certainly don't have peace of mind, because with the more money you have beyond a certain point, you end up in a different type of fear. And it's the fear of, what if I lose it all?
Yeah.
And I see that in some of the clients that I coach, is when they have a lot of money, most people will say, well, what's their problem? They have all this money. What's their problem? You don't understand. They also have fear. It's just the flip side of the other fear, right? Now, for people who don't have money, their fear is fear of poverty, the fear of not having money.
Yeah,
And then
right.
for the people who have money, their fear is fear of losing it. So
Yeah.
they certainly don't have peace of mind, right? Now, on the other side, where people are just focusing on the spiritual, the personal growth, and waiting for their angels, their gods, the universe to provide for them, without them having to face it and do something about their money, then even though you think you don't need money, you're still being slave to the money. You know why? Because in your day-to-day life, if there is a lack around money, then you can't have peace of mind either.
Yeah.
So that's what I see as a general population, that most people tend to stay on one or the other side of spectrum. And my goal, my vision, and with my work is I want to bring more people to the middle.
Yeah.
Where that's the space in between, where we can have harmony, where we can have balance. And this is where we get to dance in the unknown.
Yeah.
It's in the unknown where we can create possibilities. And so, so let's continue that conversation next time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And, I'm going to say also to the guys who are listening, we are having some, if you want to really work on this topic, you can buy this book. It's called Grow Rich, and we are talking Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. And we are going to talk from one of these chapters. So guys, you can start buying that book. Also, you can buy my book, which is in Spanish. Tu realidad es un espejo, and I have a whole chapter about money. And also, you can buy Yulin's book. What is your book? Tell us something about your
Yeah,
book.
my book is called Unleash. Hold on one second.
Let me see also your book. Yeah, wonderful. I'm so happy with my new book because I have everything about mindset, about money, about relationships. So, okay, tell something about your book, Unleash.
Yeah, it's called Unleashed. Sorry, it's flipped on your screen. It is available on Amazon. So this is not a how-to book. This is a book on 5 different women, and it's 5 different fictitious characters, but they're based on true stories from my clients. So I had to, change a lot of their characteristics, to protect their privacy. But the essence of the stories are real. And so my intention for writing this book is I want people to read it and say, "Oh, I see myself in there. I can see myself in one of the stories." And I want this book to be your inspiration to get unleashed, to stop being stuck, to get unleashed, because you know what? If any other people can do it, so can you. So, so this is available on Amazon. And I'm also working on a second book right now. And so hopefully.
Oh, I'm so curious about the new book also.
The new book, so right now, the title is called Choosing to Walk Alone.
Wow. Wow, love that.
Yeah, because I think there's so much fear around
Being
being
alone, being with ourselves. Yeah.
or emotionally, psychologically. And this is one of my own spiritual awakening that I, as a result of that, that I finally realized, we're never alone. We're never truly alone.
We are with ourselves and also with God,
Right.
universal.
But choosing to walk alone in the 3D world, in the physical sense, it just means that we are, when you take down the barrier of that sense of separation. The reason we feel lonely, we feel alone, is because there's a sense of separation. And once we tear down that layer, that we truly know that we're all connected, then you know deep down inside that you're never really alone. So you can walk alone anywhere in the world. So that's my next book.
Wow, wow, wow. I love it. Love the topic. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
It's been really a pleasure. And guys, please wait for our next talk. We are gonna tell you soon about our next talk. So thank you guys. And if you have any question, please just write down here. Even if you see just the live, just write down the questions there in the bubble. It doesn't matter if we are not live, but we are gonna answer all the questions if you have, okay? So thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care.